Good evening, everybody. As you almost catch me putting my cell phone on airplane mode. Welcome to Jill and Frank. Tonight, unfortunately, once again, it will only be Frank. You will have to do with age and without beauty, unfortunately. But we're going to try to make the best of it, and we're going to try to make this show still interesting and fun, and hopefully talk about things that would interest you. And so I'm just trying to give people a little bit of time to come in. Now, tonight I want to basically just relate something that, is happening to me in a way and whatever. I'm not going to get into the details of what's happening to me. But what I'm going to say is that what is happening to me right now is like, it's very, very, there's a lot of aggression coming towards me, and there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of like crazy stuff going on. And what it's actually doing to me at times, right, is it gets me in that headspace where I become consumed with it, where I become like, oh my God, like, this is crazy, this is happening, da da da. And then now this is the place where it's important to remember that we don't want to function from ego as much as possible, right? And obviously in the moment you're going to go, and you're going to, but if you're able to focus on it and allow it to be, like, feel it, know that, hey, really, yeah, you're feeling like all kinds of crazy about this and it's not going well. And, but know that those feelings, they're actually, the reason you're reacting that way to them is because of your ego. It's your ego that wants to be protected, to go, and so if you're able to just remember that and feel the experience and go, okay, today's completely crazy, tomorrow will be better. And then find the small things in your life that you can bring into the mix and go, okay, if I try to switch it with something, whatever. But you also have to give it its natural time. Like in my case, I think quite obviously in my life, there's a certain time that is needed before I can handle a certain information and before I can make it meaningful. Before, like, when something comes in, at first I'll react and I'll be all consumed by it. And then, let's say overnight or whatever, that's why they say, right, sleep on it. Something else will happen, right? Like I start taking in that information and I start processing it. And so it's always important to remember, even when you're in that panic mode, even when things are going crazy, that they're not going to go crazy forever. It's okay. It's just, that's part of one of the cycles. It's things go crazy one day, they go great the next day. And so now here's the thing. We decided to try something new with Jill and Frank here, and so we did a little wheel, and we call it the wheel of topics or whatever. And so I think what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to try to give it a try, see if we can manage to
do what we're going to make you guys do
eventually, and if we can. Now, there's a couple of things that have to be able to happen in the background here, and I don't know if they can. Okay, I potentially may not have my wheel. All right. Let me try something here, see if it works. Nope, that is not working. All right, you guys. Well, Unfortunately, like we always do on Jill and Frank, we had a small
Right.
have our wheel. So let's gonna spin it, and let's how. That's a good one. That's actually a very good one. Yeah. Okay. That's perfect. Um, Forgiveness. Number one, forgiveness is not something you do. Like everybody has their the definition. I think that a lot of people have of forgiveness is very. It's not the right thing. People think forgiving someone is almost like making excuses for their behavior. It's like saying, "Oh, it's okay that you hurt me." No, it's absolutely not okay that you hurt me. It's definitely not something that, like potentially something I'm willing to let in my life again or not let in my life again. But that's one of the further steps of forgiveness. Forgiveness can come in like I know there's a system. It's called the 12 steps of forgiveness, and they describe all the steps. I don't know them uh, by heart, anyways, but I know, the idea is eventually, right? You have to suffer. You have to know, okay, this hurt me, and you have to know how it hurt you, and you have to know, like, yeah, you have to explore the hurt, not turn it into anger. Because as long as it's turned into anger, what are you going to do? You can't have anger in your heart and manage to forgive at the same time. It's not going to happen. So you have to try to let go of the anger. And the way you let go of anger is by feeling whatever hurt the anger is covering. So first, you deal with either the anger, because sometimes that's what you got to do, right? You got to feel the anger first, and you got to go like scream in a pillow, whatever, scream underwater. There's a million ways. If you want tricks, like, just ask on the page, whatever. I'll definitely chime in and give you some. But you get rid of the anger, you find the hurt, and then you feel the hurt. You go through it, and you say, okay, like this is what's really happening under. And then from that, you don't have to, like, the person that hurt you, whether they can be somebody that's still in your life, right? Or they can be somebody that's not in your life anymore. Now, that person, at some point, you have to let go. You have to realize that whatever they did, and here's where it gets critical, to not start making excuses for people, but at the same time, to acknowledge that, like, yeah, you need it. Hmm. I'm having a hard time expressing what I'm trying to say here. Anyways, like the whole thing basically is you're not making excuses for the person, right? You're going, okay, let's say, well, here, we'll take an example, like my dad, right? For years, I hated my dad, like, and I mean, don't get me wrong, my dad had a lot of good points, but there was also a lot of things that happened in my life with my dad that were hurtful to me. And so I had to go through the anger. Number one, like it was almost at a point of hatred at that point. I remember friends telling me, back when it was before I went to rehab, and friends were telling me, Frank, you're like a time bomb. One day you're going to explode, and, something's going to happen. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm the nicest guy in the world. And the truth is, I was a time bomb. I was like excessively passive aggressive, probably. Uh, no, I was. I'm pretty sure. And but so I had to go through feeling that anger, and when I actually allowed myself to feel it, it literally, like, it took at least a week and a half of. I mean, I was going in the shower 3 times a day. It was a struggle. It was like, I was crying. I was freaking out. I was beating pillows. I was screaming. I was doing all kinds of stuff. And yet, you know, it, I had to do that. But at some point, what started happening is I started finding my abuses, right? The things that had hurt me. And the things that in reality, a lot of the blame I had towards my dad was not always just stuff he did. It was also because I had been abused by others at a very young age. And that I had gone, well, why didn't you protect me? Right? That was a big thing for me, was like, why weren't anybody like taking me out of that situation? So I had to deal with that. I had to deal with, how I felt about it and whatever. Now, once I did that, once I looked at my abusers, including the abuser when I was a baby, practically a baby, and whatever, all that, I had to look at it and I had to appreciate what it was and appreciate that whatever had happened was because either A, those people were either sick in some way or they were lacking in some ability. And the more you understand about yourself, right, the more it's going to be a lot easier to understand about others. Because in the end, the truth is, we all have the same good points and bad points, and we all struggle with them, and we all have to try to balance them. Now, not everybody knows you have to balance them. Most people don't. But that's the point I try to make with the boundless mind, with everything I do, is reaching balance. That's the key. That is what's the most important, because you know what, inside of us, we all have that thing, like, or those things or whatever, where we think we're a horrible person because of something that we do or something we think or something. And sometimes it's something we think but we would never act on, or it's something, we all have all kinds of darkness inside us. We're all humans. That's just the way humans are. But the problem is, most of us are not willing to accept it. Most of us are not willing to. And I don't know that it's a willingness thing. It's just because we were handed down generation after generation after generation. We were handed down faulty maps, right? And now we're still mapping our emotions. We're still mapping who we are. Now, I think there was a time where we had a much better map than we do now. But we'll get into that one at some other time. But yeah, like, so we received faulty maps and then we started passing them down. Now, what's happening right now is with the technology and our communication and the fact that we're able to talk with, I can talk to somebody in Australia within 33 seconds and immediately be engaged and know what's going on in their life, and they know what's going on in mine, and we connect on a much deeper level than we used to. And that is creating something that is just incredible, because humanity is awakening. Now, we're seeing amazing positive things happen, but we're also seeing every bit of evil that humans are. And it's not, the problem is we tend to see good as good and evil as evil, right? Like, I know it sounds dumb to say, but whereas if you kind of look at them like, wait a minute, okay, sometimes, like, if we were in a survival mode, let's say, right, like we were for millions of years, really, killing might be surviving, right, at that point. Now, killing today, you don't have to, right? And that's the whole point vegans will make. And those are all discussions that are important to have, and that are however uncomfortable discussions make us, we should not avoid them, right? As a side note, I think that's a very important thing. Whatever discomfort a conversation will bring you, just allow it to be. How about going into the world and asking everybody you meet, including those who don't agree with you, what their side of the story is? Never mind telling everybody yours. It doesn't matter. Like, it's okay. You can. It's fine. But make sure you listen to everybody else's side of the story. It's more important. And people forget to do that. Hey, here's where I'm going. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna take everything away, and I'm gonna actually when we talk about the ego, okay, so we started with the ego, and here's what I want to say. Like the ego, oh, this is gonna go okay. All right, this is not gonna please everybody, but here it goes. The story of the Bible. All right, the devil in the story of the Bible is our ego, right? Now, if you remember, he's a fallen angel. Now, what could that mean, right? Well, our ego is a part of ourselves that's super important, right? It allows us to survive. I mean, your ego is part of the reason why you don't go running across the road when there's a million cars. Because if you didn't have that sense of self, if you didn't have that, oh my God, I must protect this, well, guess what? You would die very young. So your ego is important. It is not, when they talk about the ego death, it does not actually talk about getting rid of the ego whatsoever. And we'll get to that someday, but not today. But we function from our ego, and this is the problem. And this is where right now, like everybody's going like, oh my God, it's like the apocalypse and whatever. And it's kind of true in a way, because look at us. We're living absolutely egocentrically, like there's no tomorrow. And look at all the problems it's giving us. It's the devil. Our ego is the fallen angel. Now, the thing about it is we have to harvest those parts of ourselves. We have to harvest all the, like all those fallen parts. We have to okay, give me a second here. I keep on having images show up. It's taking away my concentration. Okay, where was I? Wait up, I don't even know where this is. Okay, guys. And so, yeah, where was I? All right, so your ego, yes. And so what happens? That is your ego is the fallen angel. Your ego is, because you have many parts of yourself. Like you have your thoughts, you have your emotions, you have. Now, the thing with the ego is that at some point in our early humanity, in our early way of living, we were in survival mode. It was fight or flight. It was, survival by knowing what to eat, knowing. So we had to protect ourselves, like from the weather, from animals, from all kinds of stuff. So our ego was the most important part of us, right? It allowed us to survive in a lot of ways. Like, well, not in a lot of ways. It allowed us to survive. But here's a trick of the mind. Our mind has a tendency, it's lazy. Like our we're a very, very lazy being. And so our mind will want to take processes and render them automatic in order to be able to go on with what's in the present, but have something to draw on all the time. But it takes the lazy way. So it stores things places, and then you're not conscious anymore of those things. You're just like, you're functioning on automatic. And so because our ego was such an important part of our survival at that point, well, we put that part on automatic. But that part is a little bit of a tricky part. And this is where, again, like you listen to sort of the story of the Bible and you go, okay, yeah. So the devil was that tricky part. And that's how it takes shape. That's how he falls, right? Is when we make it an automatic and we start thinking this is us. Because the ego will do that, because it allows it to do a better job. It identifies us. So we go, my thoughts are me, everything is me. Like, so we perceive everything in relation to I. So I go through the world looking at I, and people act because I'm here, and people say things because I'm, and so our ego starts perceiving things that way. But this is a trap, right? It's our higher self that's actually the one we have to find. And here's the deal. I mean, if I'm gonna, harvest things out of Christianity here, or out of the Judaism or whatever, well, actually, in this case, it'll be Christianity. But that's what Jesus tried to come and teach us, was actually how to get away from our ego, how to, because there's, whether it exists or not, right? Like, man may have created God, God may have created man. And the truth is, it doesn't matter. To me, I think it's both. It's literally both. It doesn't matter. We created God, but because we created God, God exists, and it doesn't matter. And in the end, it's also more than that. But um, because of that, we gave it that power, and we have our higher self, and that's the central part of us that knows. You can communicate with that part of yourself. Now, if I relate the steps I have taken, in my case, I got there through meditation, learning about a whole bunch of religions, learning about a whole bunch of faiths, a whole bunch of different things. But mostly the important part is the practice, right? And so, first, meditation. Meditation will give you that. It will give you a separation from your emotions and your thoughts. It'll give you that space where you're now able to look at yourself, but from the outside. You now have gained a different consciousness because you're conscious of levels of yourself that used to be automatic. Because again, those are levels that are, part of your ego controls those things, right? Now you're coming a little bit outside of your ego with meditation. It'll really help if you do it daily and carry it on for a while. Then you can follow that, because as you do things like that, what's going to happen is you're now going to start building other awarenesses as well. And as you build it, you may become aware that, there's a sense that everything is connected, everything is energy, everything is, and that sense is actually true. And it's all, you can join with it in a sense. And at that point, what I did was magic. But some people may like to do like different energy work, but things that put you in contact with the very etheric nature of things will be helpful here, because it will give you that a chance to detach from your ego. And what ends up happening eventually, if you follow, and I mean, there's many different teachings, so find the one that resonates with you and stick with one, though, like follow it through. And eventually what will happen is you'll reach that place where you will find your higher self, and it will communicate to you. Now that's it's basically, it's your subconscious, right? You're now having a mode of communication with your subconscious, and it is done both through symbols and through intuition, mostly intuition actually. But you can communicate with it through symbols as well. uh, but when you discover that part of yourself, when you discover the higher self, it, if you're willing to trust it, because you're still going to have an ego. Your ego doesn't go away. Your ego stays with you, like, regardless. I mean, an ego death for me is, I like better the terminology transcending the ego, because your ego exists still. You're sort of coming out of it. You're coming out of an existence that resolves around it. Now, weird things start happening at that point. Like, you may lose your taste for any kind of entertainment. You may, a lot of things that might have otherwise, like, been super cool to you, you kind of go, because, well, those were just there to like fill your ego. But now your meditation and all those kinds of things will become easier, because now you're like, hey, those things are giving me more of what I like now, more of what I'm feeling, I'm becoming conscious of. Uh, there's a lot to be said about that. Oh, sorry about that, Nick. I never said hi. Sorry, I didn't have the chat opened. But yeah, so to me, that's the whole battle that happens, is a battle of the ego and a battle of the higher self, and the ego will resist every step of the way. And Even today, I mean, I've done a lot of things and I've gone a fair way, I think, spiritually. But even to this day, I mean, it's still something I battle, right? When I said earlier that, when things were going completely crazy and I was overthinking things and I was like stuck in this wheel, right, of thinking, when that happens, that's an ego experience. That is it's because your ego is not letting go of things. Your higher self will never get attached to things that way. It doesn't, it just knows. It knows where things are supposed to go, and it knows where you're supposed to go. And if you connect to it, you'll get those moments where your ego will fight it, and you'll be like, you'll suffer for that day or whatever it is, right? Day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, it doesn't matter. It comes in, right? And all of a sudden you're like, and then you'll go like, oh, wait a minute, and you'll kind of disconnect. And when you manage to redisconnect, all of a sudden you'll find your purpose again. You'll find your strength. You'll find your power. You'll be like, oh, okay, great, wait a minute, this is where we're going. And it happens, like, don't get me wrong, this is a cycle that happens to everybody and it happens all the time, right? You go through crap and then eventually things get better. And then you go through crap and things get better. But each time they get better, they get that little bit better, or you've learned something new. And so now you're in a different situation that's a little bit better than the last one when it went well. But it's still that cycle that repeats itself all the time. And so that's just another one. Like, there's a lot of them. So I hope, like, this helps a little bit understand the whole ego thing and whatever. Here's another thing. Okay, here's what, guys, I'm gonna drop another one on you tonight. Something else I've been thinking about. A little while ago I thought about that and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, this ties in everything. Here's what I try to do. uh, I'm what people call an omnist, right? So I take every religion and I try to find the truth in all of them. And so, where was I going with this? It was something I pulled out of. Yeah, it doesn't matter, guys. It was some. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, no, I know where I was going with this. I was going to tell you. Nah, maybe I saved that for another night. You know what? I think I'm going to go back to our wheel and find us a fresh topic. Let's see if we can make that happen again. How do we get that wheel? Wheel of fortune, where are you? Where is our wheel? Oh, it vanished.
Are subject to change without notice.
Oh,
So I wonder if that's why it's like 650 to 750,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you get. Like I'm guessing a Sierra Nevada or San Adam is going to be more than a milligram.
We all gonna say we had more than Miller,
what is
but
the
like
difference between tarot and oracle cards? Well, that's an interesting one. I like that.
okay, so we got that one.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm gonna go with my opinion, my perception of how things are. Number one, tarot cards for me are a very, very, very important tool. Not in the way that people usually use them. Tarot cards are, yeah, they're great for divination. Whatever, this is covered at length by most people. However, the thing with tarot card, as they are also a book, um, that talks about the process of creation. It talks about everything. It talks about how we were created. It talks about how we can create. Um, and it is all written in symbols in order for it's for your subconscious to capt, not so much for your conscious. So the more you work with the tarot, the more those symbols awaken. Now, I say this, tarot has been, there's a few basic decks, like a few basic concepts and designs that are basically what the tarot has been and to a large extent should be. There's a few esoteric tarots that will add like a whole bunch of stuff to it, and that's fine. But then there's also a whole bunch that are just, like little drawings drawn together, like thrown together and whatever. And so none of the symbols are there to awaken anything. If somebody grabs like the Rider Waite, if somebody grabs the Golden Dawn Tarot, if somebody grabs the Tarot of Thoth, that one is a tough one. No, it's a hard tarot to use, I find. Like those tarots will be full of symbols. And what happens is if you meditate on them, not just do readings like do divination, but if you meditate on the symbols and their meaning and what is the meaning of the lovers, of death and the transition, and, at that point, you gain a lot of knowledge. Now, all knowledge about you and knowledge about the world is all the same, right? It's all knowledge about you. And so the tarot will actually awaken different parts of your psyche through its symbols. Whereas oracle cards are cards that you would simply read for divination, or even sometimes for divination. But in my case, I would use oracle cards. I like them when I go in stores and stuff. I don't own oracle cards. I probably should, because I like them. But I'll read them like, I'll just grab a little message when I'm at the store, whatever. Because here's the deal. Whenever they say like the world is a reflection of yourself, right? At first, I know for myself, at first I thought, okay, well, that's a psychological concept. It talks about the shadow. It talks about, whenever I see somebody act a certain way, why does it bother me? Well, it's because it's a part of me that I'm repressing. All that good stuff, right? And it's like, okay, great. But here's the deal. When you start truly applying the fact that the world will give you information about yourself, and you start listening for it everywhere else, everywhere, because everything you perceive in this world is something about you. Like, even if I perceive my environment here right now, the way it looks, the way it smells, the way it's a part of me, it communicates with me, and I can learn about myself through each part. But worse yet, even parts like the sun, you can be walking in the forest and all of a sudden you're thinking like, okay, should I do this or should I do that? And for some reason, as you're thinking, I think I'm leaning towards this, something happens, the sun comes out, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And you're like, whoa, this is like it's almost like a sign of God. No, it is. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. But if you learn to listen, if you go, hey, you know what if I let myself go completely crazy, batshit nuts, and listen for all kinds of weird signs around me and see what happens? Like, let's allow myself to be completely crazy for a week. But the problem is, what you find out at that point is that what you're reading ends up working and happening, because you're developing your gut feeling at the same time, right? That's what you want to develop, is your intuition, your ability to feel things. And that's not that hard. People think it's super hard to develop, and it's like all things. It seems very, very challenging at first, because you're like, okay, how do you do this? I don't know intuition. I kind of know. I felt it once, I think. I don't know. And it's like, no, you felt it probably a bunch of times, and you kind of just ignored it. Because nobody teaches us, hey, that thing, listen to it. It's like your thoughts and your emotions. It's just a third thing that we have. But nobody listens to it because it's very hard to prove its existence. It's not very tangible. It's a little bit trickier to listen to. But here's the deal. Anytime, pay attention in your own life. And anytime you get that gut feeling when you're about to do something, if you're about to get a job, if you just met someone and you're like, something tells me I should get away from that person, but I don't know, maybe not, right? Whatever. And then see how things turn out. And sadly, I think everybody will say, yeah, every time I don't listen to that, I kind of regret it, because it always ends up being true. And the truth is, the next time we still don't listen to it. Why? Why do we do that to ourselves? And we do. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because it's just a thing. That's all it is. But we do that. We ignore the messages that it sends us. Now, the problem is, the more you listen to it, the trickier those messages can get as well. Like it will test your limits, it will test your faith. So you'll listen to it. And I have had times so many times in my life where I was bordering on starvation. I thought it was going to be the end of the world. Everything was working against me. You know what I mean? Like nothing was going good. And still, knowing inside me, having that spark in my gut that was going, yeah, but it'll be all right. And couple that with faith, because you kind of know that that feeling has never lied. And so I would be in a situation, let's say, where I'll use a real, life example, whatever. I'd be in a situation where I have no money, and all of a sudden would come in a job, right? Now that job, I'd go see it, whatever, and I'd be like, you know what? I get a bad feeling about it. But when I looked at it, I was like, wow, but it would be a nice job. Like it would pay well. It would be, it wouldn't be that hard to do, da da da. And I'm like, wow, okay, I can't, And I've done in the past, I've done it. I've gone like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take the job, whatever, man. Like, never mind that. Like, I got to take this. This is good money. It's, whatever. It's going to be a breeze. And every single time, and Jill can attest to that because it happened not that long ago where I said, oh man, something's not going to go right on this job. I feel it. And yes, we had to repair the subfloor. It was like a 3-day job that became a 2-week job or something. It became long. And so, yeah, every time it's happened and I've ignored it, something happens. Now, in that particular instance, though, I ignored it, knowing I was ignoring it, and something was gonna happen. But it was a choice I made. I went like, whatever, I don't care, man, because I need the money. but I'll tell you, it's always been the minute I get that feeling, I go, okay, something. So I've had times where I've had to go, you know what, like I'm starving. And I'm gonna have to pass this job, even though it seems really amazing, because I get a bad feeling about it, right? And for some reason or another, it would send, like, the world would, the universe, whatever it is, would send me another job equally as good or even better. And, but it'll do it in a way. It always happens last minute for me. It always happens right at crunch time. All of a sudden, I'm like, I'm going to die. And it's like, boom, comes in a check, or something happens that makes it that I'm all right. And I think if you're willing to give the universe and source that amount of trust, it will never let you down. I mean, I'll let you know, but so far, I've been pretty good when I let it do that. Now, I don't always let it. That's my problem. I don't always allow it to carry me like that. But if you allow the universe to carry you, but you have to, okay, there's so much to unwrap here all at the same time, but we're all energy, right? And so you have to allow yourself to flow with the energy of the world. You have to line yourself up with it. And that's not easy to do. And yeah, and you can slip out of it, and you can, but there's a way where you can, but for that, you have to become a clean channel. You have to get rid of your anger. Number one, if you carry anger around, if you're carrying resentment around, that will weigh you down and it'll drown you. If you can let go of those things and learn forgiveness, if you can embrace a life of love, it's so weird, but loving others has been the one thing that has brought my life the most. Because for some reason, and I mean, don't get me wrong, everything people will say, right? Oh, if you be a sucker, people will try to take advantage. Yeah, they try. But having boundaries is the next thing that's very important. And so, yeah, learn to say no so you can be a nice person. And yes, because of it, many people will try to take advantage. And then you kind of, look at them and go, okay, nice try. Now get out of my life, please. And you'll make mistakes, but you know what? Like, if you go around and offer the world love and offer, and again, I don't mean love like the human love. I'm talking about universal love. So you can have somebody, we were talking about forgiveness. You can have somebody that has hurt you and still offer them love, right? Um, I read a book by the Dalai Lama years ago, and at some point, one of the things he said, and it was good for me because I was going through something really rough at the time with somebody, and he talked about offering somebody the victory, and he talked about it as being something freeing, right? Like at some point, sometimes you're gonna suffer so much trying to come out of the battle victor that you're better off just going like, you know what, I give you the victory, and not only are you, I mean, it's obviously going to depend on how big it is for you and what it is in your life, right? But I mean, in some stuff, you got to look and you got to say, am I better off offering them the victory, offering them the little bit of happiness that it'll bring in their life for a split second, and just let them go and let them be on their merry way and let them enjoy their life, right? Like sometimes it's just the best way to go. You just kind of let go of things, let go of people. Non-attachment, like we're talking like Dalai Lama and Buddhism and whatever, like the non-attachment concept of Buddhism is very important. um I think even if you're using Western techniques or whatever, at some point you come to that place where it's important to kind of let go of outcomes, right? Like I was saying earlier, I'm going through all kinds of crazy stuff in my life right now, and a lot of it is outcome driven. And so sometimes I have to just kind of line up all my ducks in a row and say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what, whatever. And then let go of what's going to happen with that. Just go, these are the things I decided to do now. And so I'm going to do them for the sake of doing them, not because they will bring me this outcome. And that frees you. Now, nonetheless, I still get days where, a whole pile of stuff happens all at once and I freeze up and I'm like, don't get me wrong, people. Life is always life and it will always be life. And please, if you're here to escape life, I'm not the guy for you. If you're here because you want to take responsibility of your life, you want to be, you want to go at it hard, then yeah, that's where you come, because I'll take care of you. Let's spin the wheel again. We have the wheel there. We didn't. We did. We didn't. I don't know what's going on with our wheel. It came to visit.
Your booking number, can you repeat that for me, please?
M0L5B Fur.
I like the audio background.
Okay, so I got M as in Mickey, the number 0, number 5, B as in boy. What were the last two?
No, so M like Mickey Mouse. O 0. I'm not sure which one that is. And then L like lemur. And then 5. And then B.
I'm not gonna touch that one tonight.
And then fur.
Okay, Bob, let me read that back to you. So M as in Mickey, the number 0,
whatever.
Lemon.
Let's
reincarnate.
Sound
like no lemon. Be upset.
Let's go for it.
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right. Right. All right. So you guys need to know, part of the reason that Jill can't be with us these days is because she's doing some work, but she's actually helping me in the background here with the wheel while working. And this is what we're hearing is Jill's. She's on a call with many people, and so all kinds of stuff is happening as we spin the wheel. And so. But it'll be another couple of weeks, and Jill will be back with us, and she will be, fully with us, fully involved. And so reincarnation. All right, here's what the can of worms I said I wouldn't open before. I'm going to open it now. Here's a theory of mine that I came up with a month ago. It's probably not a theory of mine. I'm sure somebody else has come up with it before. I mean, there's not a whole lot new under the sky. But what if? Okay, so some people believe in reincarnation. Some people believe in heaven. Some people will say that heaven is on earth, the same as hell is on earth. What if all three were right? Right? That's where I was going earlier by saying I was an omnist. My desire to try to bring all the explanations together has said, okay, how do I bring those ones together? How could it be that they're all true? And here's what I came up with. So, and okay, I forgot. I got to tie in karma with that, right? If somebody believes in karma, okay, so how would it all play out? What if I said we reincarnate? When we reincarnate, based on the life I'm living right now, my next incarnation, because of my karma, will be either I'm paying off a lot of bad karma, or I now have a much easier life because I've gained a lot of good karma. And so could it not be that in one case I'm going to hell and in another case I'm going to heaven in both extremes? Oh, come on, people. And so I was thinking, wow, okay. And that ties in the other group who says, no, hell and heaven are a state of being. There's something you are on earth. Yeah, absolutely. And so to me, it's like it takes all three major theories and ties them into one. Because the description of heaven would be it's a place where the world is a beautiful place. Now, to understand the full thing, yeah, I guess you need to have sort of a little bit of an impression of what the feeling of, the heaven life feels like. Because you can have on this planet at this moment, you can have an incredibly beautiful life. It's doable. Like, it's very, very doable. It's work, but it's doable. It's like, your life can be absolutely, you can live heaven on earth. And it doesn't mean there's no suffering. It doesn't mean there's that everything stops. No, or you're still gonna cry, you're still gonna hurt, all of that exists. But you can live heaven on earth. I mean, absolutely. So yeah, that's my big theory, is like putting those three together. I guess it wasn't as big as I thought. I thought it was going to be a fairly big topic, but now here's the other. Okay, this one might become a little bit controversial. I hope not, but in this day and age, right now, we're having a lot of people that are born identifying into something that their body doesn't represent, right? And I'm not going to get into the whole politics of it. I'm not going to get into what I'm curious. There was a theory I had heard a long time ago, and it made a lot of sense to me. And it said that when we're born, we remember our previous life like full well. So let's say right now I die, whatever, and who knows, I don't know whatever story each of us believes as to, do you come back right away? Do you come back in a week? Do you come back? Whatever happens. But when I come back in the next life, I remember being me. I am me for all intensive purposes. However, what ends up happening is that me in a baby's body that can't speak, can't do nothing, cannot walk, at first it can't even see. Right? And so I go through an insane traumatic event. Right? And at that point, most of my memories get erased. And then on top of it, at that point, in order for me to survive, all I can do is scream and hope that somebody does the right thing, because I might need food, changing, whatever, right? That's all I have. And so for months, I'm stuck with that in order to survive. I'm like, my God, let me survive. When the dust settles and baby starts going, okay, wow, what the hell is going on, man? Like, we're good. All right. Well, then some of it might remain and stuff. And this is how we can go back and you know, reach memories from our past lives. But here's what may happen. I'm a man right now, and whatever I die, blah, blah, blah. I'm born a woman, but through my baby trauma, that part remains with me. I still identify as Frank. I'm still like, I'm born and I'm like, bruh, I'm Frank. I don't know what you guys are talking about, like calling me Judith, but no, man, that's not happening. And so that's how that's happening. Now, here's the deal. Is it that we have more than ever or less, or, you know, or that we hear more about it right now? But we see people like, I mean, we have people that are animals, people that are, but at the same time, we also have more people than we've ever had. And so, what if, in order to accommodate that many souls, we were getting souls from, you know, that reincarnate from all kinds of different places, right? Like there's rabbits reincarnating into human and cats reincarnate. And so because of that same process, now we have people walking around identifying as cats, identifying. And I'm not saying that it makes it right or wrong. I'm just saying, I think, you know, that could be something to look at. That's it's a theory. And I think that theory is very interesting. Um, it's something that I've looked at and went like, okay, wait a minute, like maybe that's possible, right? Now, all those things, guys, like I don't know where you sit on all those issues and on all those things there, but you know, there's only one rule that I apply to everything, and that rule is if I meet another human, whatever they be, you know, I don't like whatever they are. I don't care if they're human. Actually, if they're animal, if they're anything that I can communicate with, I will stop and pay attention to and listen to what they are. Because guess what? It doesn't matter who a person is, what their origins are, what they're like. I mean, it matters in the sense that it adds color to their life, right? It makes them who they are. It makes them who they are in the sense like their story, right? Everything they've lived, everything they've experienced. But that's the thing. Every time we meet another human being, that is the spirit with which we should meet them, by saying, you have much to bring me. There's a lot to be said to you know, some cultures who call people teacher. Because yes, everybody is our teacher. Everybody has something to teach me, definitely, right? Like I'll meet people, and some are, you know, might be struggling or something, and they're like, "Oh my God, Frank," blah, blah, blah. And they're like, "Oh, you've helped me so much, Frank," and I'm like, "Well, thanks, you've helped me too." And they go, like, "What do you mean? Like, how could I have helped you?" And I'm like, "Well, because you've taught me about whatever it was." Because there's always something. There's every human I meet has something to teach me. Right? Like everybody, if I meet somebody that's, I don't know, 40 years old, they have 40 years of a life that is completely different than mine. They've experienced different things. They have seen different things. They've seen possibly countries. They've seen. And so each time I meet a person, I say, you know, like, let's share who we are. And it's important to me. And to me, I mean, I'm sorry if I go there, but to me, using the words black and white are absolutely insulting to everybody. Because the truth is, if you look at, you know, a person from Scotland and a person from the States and a person from Canada and a person from Germany, you're going to have like very different individuals. And the same goes if you look at a person from Nigeria and a person from Jamaica, or a person from Haiti, or a person from, you know, Ivory Coast from
end of class.
There are so many places, and there are so many different cultures that we can appreciate. And if we just take the time to listen to each individual as a person, as a star, as an opportunity to learn about their part of the world. And I don't even mean their physical part of the world, because they could be from next door to you. but what their experience is, who they are, what their beliefs are, how they differ from you, which ones you share, where you can find common ground. If we all start communicating that way, well, maybe we can get somewhere. You know what I mean? But if we all keep on seeing differences, we all keep on seeing where we differ, we're always going to find something. Always. And so, you guys, I think I'm going to leave on that. I think that's the note that is going to be it. So, yeah. Okay. Here's what, guys. Here's how it ties. Basically, there's only one thing that's going to make us all better. That's going to make us all do good. And that is love. Right? I mean, 2,000 years ago, there's some dude, and whether you believe he was the son of God, whether you believe he was a prophet, whether you believe, I don't care what you believe about him. But he came and he said, hey, you know what, guys? Have you tried loving each other? Right? That could be a cool, cool thing to do. And then they took a symbol that represents all four elements and they turned it into their religion. But that's okay. But that guy came, like, the importance is his message, right? And the same Buddha had the same, they all had the same thing to say, man. Just let life flow and love those around you, love yourself, love the world, and you'll see everything will be hunky-dory, because the world will mirror that love to you. And so on this, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Sorry I couldn't have the lovely Jill with me. We'll have her soon. I hope I didn't bore you too much. I hope I had something interesting for you in there. And so until next time, I wish you all much love, and I'm gonna go with the usual cheesy namaste. Goodbye.